Hello viewers, it's Peter Elgar, photographer from Brentwood, Essex, specialising in film photography and old cameras and out-of-date film. I've been on several lockdown walks, so being in lockdown I'm not allowed to travel outside of my town of Brentwood, Essex in England. I can't even go 6.5 miles up the road to Billericay. So I have to walk around Brentwood, but I've been using some of my wonderful old cameras that I've been given. And the first one I'm going to show is some pictures taken with this Contax RTS2, which I was saved from the dump some years ago. It's going to be dumped. And I've done a video about it, you'll find it online. And I went out with one lens, which is this one, and it's a Yashica 80 to 200mm zoom f4 that came with the Yashica FR1, which also was saved from the dump at the same time. Now I had my standard lens repaired because there was a stop down fault. It had a sticky aperture and I thought to myself, what's that? But when I looked, there was oil on the blades of the aperture. So it's cost me 35 quid to have it all taken apart and cleaned. So now it's wonderful. So first of all, we'll have a look at a set which I took recently, my latest set, done with this combination, one lens trip only. And then I'll show you a few with a faulty lens, and then we'll go on to other makes of cameras. Now these are all darkroom prints. Put my lens down carefully. I've done these darkroom prints. This is on some A4 size cut in half Ilford multi-grade Mark IV. And I cut it in half and developed it at home in my homemade Ilford PQ Universal Developer. Now these are some old original houses in Brentwood, little cottages with a modern office block behind. These are very, very old, these houses. That was taken with that zoom at f4, full aperture. And as we go down the road, the Ongar Road, we turn into the main road and there's a balloon shop and it has lots of displays, and that is taken from across the road with the zoom at f4 again, so I get a high enough shutter speed. And it's love coming up for Valentine's Day. You can't see any reflections, luckily, through the glass. Then further on up the road into the main town, when it's sunny, you get these shadow effects. It has to be sunshine and it has to be sloping winter sunshine to get these shadows. But I saw that. Any non-photographer would say, why is that funny old bloke pointing his camera down at the ground? But as you understand, you're all photographers, you know what I saw. Wonderful shadow pattern. That's taken with the zoom. It's stopped down this time to f8 to give a bit more depth of field. Then further down the road we come to the Catholic Cathedral. Now this is my test picture. I've used it so many times, but it's still good. It's the doorway of the Catholic Cathedral in Brentwood. It's to show a definition of all the old creepers. That was at f8 on the 80 to 200 Yashica ML zoom. And I used a motor wind on it, which came with the camera. Then we went over the pond. And I took a couple over there of the ice. And this is all ice, frozen on the pond, and I had some lovely shadows. I took two of this. There's two. Which one do you think I will put in for the camera club competition? Because you know what judges are like? It won't be that one, because the judge was saying there's a white bit at the top and your eye is led out of the picture by the white. The judges are so fussy, especially these women judges. I'm going to put this one in where I've framed it up differently and there's no large white area at the top. That had to be done at a low contrast magenta on the filtration because it was very high contrast. Now the film I've been using is some cut from bulk. This one, made in Croatia, KB200, comes from my deceased mate, Humphrey Bishop, who died, and his sons gave me all his film. It was dated, when is it dated? Years before January 1998. he'd never opened it. So I've been experimenting with that. And these were done in Pro Micro Liquid Developer, 1 to 14 for 14 minutes. I've also used ID11. There's some gulls, and these are standing on the ice, and he's floating on a bit of free water. That was an F4 on the zoom. There's some reeds, that was an F8. And this one is Marks and Spencer store, reflected in a puddle by the post office sorting office in St Thomas's Road, Brentwood. Again, people would say, why is that funny bloke pointing his camera into a puddle of water? But of course, they're not photographers. They don't see these things. And that is the storefront of Marks and Spencer's upside down. You see? Anyway, that's the set with the 80 to 200. Then I'll show you the set with the standard 50mm lens when it was faulty. Now this paper is double weight, fibre based Ilford bromide, again came from my deceased friend. Now I thought to myself at 2.8 that should be really sharp, and I'll stop the action, but when you look closely it's not terrifically sharp. I thought, why is that? And it was very dense negative. And into the churchyard I took this. Only certain times of the year do you get this effect with the old broken cross and the textures in the churchyard with the sun coming through. This was creeper. That's badly overexposed, that negative. I thought, what's going wrong? This is a tree in the woods near the pond, full aperture, f1.4. That was a very dense negative. Funnily enough, this is a homeless man with his tent up outside the old post office, which is now a solicitor's, 1.4. That wasn't dense. Here's one at f2.8, Fred James's memorial in the churchyard. That wasn't bad, with the 50mm lens. But that's when I had the aperture problems, and it was giving me intermittent exposure. Some were dense and others weren't. Now we've got some more here with the Contax, still on the Contax. This is KB40 in Rodinau. This was with the Yashica lens, which was also faulty at full aperture, f1.9. Another one of my test subjects of some structures outside of a firm that supplies building materials. There's a brick wall here at f1.9 because the lens was stuck at f1.9, so everything was taken at 1.9. But that lens has now been repaired as well, and it's giving good results. This is KB40, not the KB200. There's one church door again. That is with the standard lens. That's the f2, the planar f2, and that's the what I did. I took some of the Yashica. That's with the Yashica full aperture, 1.9, and I put the planar from the Contax to take that one to see what happened. And that was at f1.9 full aperture. Then this one is taken with the zoom, if I remember rightly. Yes, this is with the zoom at f4. These are bigger because they're on a different paper. I wanted to use it up. This is Ilpo Speed Glossy Grade 1. This is with the 80 to 200 zoom, and that stopped down at only 5.6. And here's some more shadows. You see, certain times of the day you get the shadow effect. The same sort of things, but as I said, I'm not allowed to travel. So that is with the Contax RTS2, the planar lens, with KB40. And we've got some results with the Yashica, which has also been repaired. Then we now come to my lovely Minolta series, Minolta Dynax. This was with a Minolta Dynax. I was given several Minolta Dynaxes, and the chairman of the Brentwood Photographic Club gave me a plastic bag, and inside was 3 Minolta Dynaxes, complete with a dead fly. This is the Dynax 5. So what I did, I've treated myself to a 50mm autofocus 1.7 Minolta lens on eBay. Don't tell the wife I spent some money, I'll be in trouble. Anyway, I went to see how a 50mm lens, because they only came with short zooms, but that's my Dynax, and these are taken with Dynax. These are with the new lens. Couple going down the little Millennium Walk. This was on thick paper again. This is on Ilford Bromide double weight glossy. There's a woman, and I've done a little bit of shade in there to retain the detail, all with the 50mm lens. There's an old guy I see, he's an Asian guy. He's always out in Brentwood feeding the pigeons in terrible light, but they're taken at 1.7 to try the lens. Guy with his mask walking past in the high street at 1.7. It's accurately focusing. Then on the way home I took this one, full aperture, on the way home to my house. Some guys up a ladder, and the detail of the brick has all been resolved, and that's 1.7 on my new lens. Now this is on different paper. Yes, this was on Delta 400 now, and I've done it in ID11, that one, but still Dynax. They're all taken on a lockdown walk, Dynax 400 ID11 multigrade 4. That one. These are on a zoom. This is with the 28 to 100 zoom. It came with the free set of Minolta Dynax cameras. I had 3 of them. I gave one away. This was the 28 to 100mm autofocus zoom. Not the 50, because I hadn't bought the 50 standard then. But there we are. That's that lens. And it's all in Brentwood High Street. They're all within 1 mile of my house. People with their masks on, people always like you to photograph their dogs. Look at the look he's giving me. And she didn't know I was taking her, sitting outside of Iceland's store. It's very quiet, that Dynax. Oh, that's the second one of that print. There's chatting outside of Marks and Spencer's with their dogs. And that was on another day, but still with that same lens, but in very, very dark. Got their shield up, you see. Minolta Dynax. And that was not on the bulk film. That was on a Ilford, as I said, Delta 400. Now we've got another one of my test subjects taken at St Thomas's Church, Dynax 5 with flash, Delta 400. Oh, that is with the new 50mm lens. That's done with ID11, 14 minutes development time. And then we've got a few more with the new lens, 50mm 1.7. That one on a Thai restaurant. This one is done with Pro Micro. That's full aperture, 1.7. I took that one at waist level and I couldn't level it up, but it's focused fairly accurately as I was running past. This was all with the new lens. This was with FP4 Plus and Pro Micro. Yeah, FP4 Plus and Pro Micro. And I've done a big print of that, and I've scanned it, and it's come out well. This was FP4 Pro Micro. Well, that's indoors, not on a lockdown walk. Yeah, well, that's a couple there indoors. That's our ruins of the chapel in the High Street. This is Ilford multigrade paper. It's quite old, but this homemade developer gives some good results. Now here's a 10 by 8 called, what's it called, that one? Conversation, it's socially distanced conversation, that's right, because they're supposed to be 2 metres apart. But I burned in the sky a little bit down in Crown Street. That was out with the 1.7 lens at full aperture. Now we've got one here of the door with my Contax SF7. Now I've got to find the, oh, here we are. That's it, with a Vivitar lens. I was sent a Contax SF7 body for the price of the postage. And I forget where I got the Vivitar lens, but that's very sharp, that lens. Beautiful lens. This is loaded with FP4 at the moment, that camera, but there's the door. And look at the texture, it's on Bromesko. And that is done with my other bulk film that I've used. Done on this one. Phototech 400 pan, dated year 2000, and actually I think it's Foamer pan 400. Again, I've cut it off from the bulk, and I've tried various developers with it. So this one was done in ID11 1+1 for 9 minutes, but that is on Kodak Bromesko paper. Now, I bet most of you watching are too young to remember the famous Kodak Bromesko. That's it, that's the actual box. Ivory fine luster, dull weight, grade 2. It's empty now because I've used it up. That must be about 50 years old. So I finally used it on a series of walk down pictures. It came out lovely. So we'll have a look at a few more taken on Kodak Bromesko to finish it up. Now these are with my lovely gift, if I can find it, not Yashi, the Rolleiflex T. And it came from my deceased friend via his son. This one, I've done a video about this. Rolleiflex T with a 16 on kit, all on out of date film that I got from his huge stash of film that his sons kindly gave me. Now this one I've got no borders because it's a bit wonky, but I cut it off. This is on the old Bromesko, which must be 50 years old. They developed in homemade was it Ilford PQ Universal formula. There's a landscape, and I've tried some filters. One is with a yellow filter, that one. Got Y on the back for yellow. That's with a red filter. I can't see hardly any difference between the two, but I did allow it. This is land I walk down to keep away from people because I'm highly vulnerable with my cancers and everything. I mustn't get near too many people when I'm out walking, but you only see a few dog walkers. I've got the puddle here with ice in it, and the way through here, no human interest, so it's a failure for club competition, but for experiments, it's good. There's a dog walker, but I'm more than 2 metres away, so that was safe. All on the Kodak Bromesko. Couple more walkers going by. The film here was Neopan 400, developed in ID11 1+1 for 10 minutes. I thought, oh, it's old film, I'll give it a bit longer. But the negatives were contrasty. I needn't have given it extra. That's the last one on the Bromesko. There's a couple here. I've done with filters again on the old Ilford bromide paper. I got 100 sheets for nothing from my deceased friend. Again, one is with a red filter and one is with a yellow filter. This is the red filter, that one, and that's the yellow filter. I can't see any difference again. Anyway, it gives me great pleasure going out doing all this experimentation. Then I've finished up the film, but I changed the paper. So this is still with my Rolleiflex T, showing the ice on our pond. Now this was cut in half, so it was bigger paper. That stopped down, I held that for 30th, F11. These are all handheld. I'm not allowed to have a heavy tripod and take heavy gear with my 4 times I've been cut open for operations. All the ice on the pond. Look. Rolleiflex T, out of date neopan developer. Now I've changed to Pro Micro now, but that gave quite good results. So there we are, folks. There's a few from my lockdown walks with old cameras and out of date film. So I hope you've enjoyed this little show, and I'll see what else I can show you next time. Thanks for watching.